Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We welcome TJ in Australia, and all the way back here, John in North Carolina, and then we go back over the ocean to Norway. Shalom to Erica, Andrew, Springfield, New Jersey, coming back. And here in Boston, we have Robert. Shalom to you. Davida and Liba are with us in New York. Good morning. Anna in New York also, if I remember correctly. Good morning to William. Usher in Tennessee. And Clem in Brisbane, Australia. Good evening or good night. Simcha is with us in Florida. Eugenia is in snow and ice-covered Calgary. Wow. You guys get the early bird special. It's coming here soon. Tim in Texas, Boker Tov. Gary in Pennsylvania, good morning. Aryeh, oh, good. Welcome back. In Miami. And Veronica is in Wisconsin with us. She is new. Okay. Say hello to everybody, to Veronica. Heather in Connecticut, good morning. Rusty in Texas, welcome. Julie is with us in Florida. David in California, or are you still traveling? Gilise, good morning. We have on Clubhouse, we have Vilma, Batya, Celeste, Tia, Tim, Margot, Luz, Deborah, Eliana. Instagram, Yantatilla Benta, we have Elisheva, or Leah Elisheva, in Fort Myers, Florida. Leah in New York. Some other Akoy in Peru, and others I can't make out exactly. And David in Montreal. Beautiful. Okay. Believe it or not, we're concluding today the fourth essay. A long journey. In the fifth part of Tanya, which is to go more deeply into some of the concepts that we've learned previously. So we're discussing here the unique nature of the physical act of a mitzvah and the study that goes together with the action-oriented mitzvah, the laws of in the Talmud, for example, the Mishnah, Jewish law, or in what we're learning in Hasidus, in mystical teachings that give us an insight into the will of God. And what we explained previously is that the teachings of the Torah are divine. And, well, that's something that I think we all familiar with. But what we learned was the Kabbalistic geography that goes with that. And what does that mean? What's Kabbalistic geography? Is there are four worlds. There is the divine attributes in those worlds, and in the divine attributes, which are the power of God in creation, there is the creative force that creates a something, and then there is that which is of God himself and is of him, not a creation. Beyond creation, it's of him, and that's his Torah. And what we explained it in the three levels of the divine attributes, which we have three levels of the soul within us. In a similar manner, nefesh, ruach, neshama. The neshama level, it remains on high, always divine. The ruach, the nefesh ruach level, are already part of creation. They're part of the something of creation, as opposed to part of creator. In human terms, there's you, the person, and what you do. The things that you do. So there's God, what he does, that is, of course, there's nothing outside of him. So it's a part of him, but it's the created part that, from creation's perspective, is separate from him. But then there is that which is of him, not separate of him, represents him, is him. That's the neshama level. And that's Torah that we learn. The Torah that we learn is his wisdom that gives us the rational understanding of his will, which is the mitzvah, the 613 of them, as a matter of fact. And that's what we explained till now. So, as we mentioned, this part of these essays all bring up some contradictory statements that are made, whether in the Zohar or in the Eitz Chaim or the pre-Eitz Chaim, all in Kabbalistic literature, and trying to, understand the statements that are made. You have to understand that if a statement is made in Torah, even if it's written by a rabbi, but it's written by a holy rabbi, like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the Rashbi, or that which was written in the name of of the Arizal. These are holy teachings. They are Torah. So if it's a teachings, we got to understand how it's correct. Not like, oh, maybe this is a wrong, this is just not correct. You can say that about other things, but not about Torah. So we're going under the assumption in our studies that, well, this is a teachings, and how does this fit in? How does it make sense? It doesn't mean we don't question. We question, but we're questioning how to make sense out of it, rather than, well, is this correct or not correct? So here's a statement from the Eitz Chaim. Again, these are teachings from the Arizal, modern day father of Kabbalah, modern day, like in the 1500s. And he says that through intention, the kavanah that a person has, we form a neshama garment. And then through Torah study, we form a, what we're doing now, for example, Torah study, a ruach of ruach garment in the world of Yitzirah, if you study Mishnah, and the ruach of neshama garment in the world of Bria, if you're studying Gemara. Do you see a problem? The problem is that ruach level is part of creation. So how is it that if we're studying, that we're studying something that is of creation rather than of creator? That's what we've been learning till now, that the Torah study that comes from Malchus of a Sia is embodied in it, Malchus, royalty of the Word of God from Atzilus, the world of emanation, that invested in that is the essence and infinite of God. But that's all by way of the neshama garment. But now we're saying, no, well, that there's a ruach garment that is created by our Torah study, which sounds that that's part of creation. And I thought we're studying that which is part of God, beyond creation, transcends creation. So the Alter Rebbe says it could be understood that, yes, the Torah study itself, this Torah itself transcends, rather, creation, and is a part of God. It is that neshama level, no doubt. It is divinity proper, period. However, when we engage in it, when we study it, we're studying it as, human beings down here that are part of creation. So our engagement with it, not what it is that we're engaged with, but our, I guess, human engagement in it, becomes, we create a ruach garment that is, derived from the created man, the created person. But the study itself, as it's given at Sinai, the Torah that's given above, is a neshama level, divinity proper. Divinity proper. Now, the Alter Rebbe says, even if you would want to say, and he's giving now another answer, that what was given at Sinai, maybe it's in reference to what was given at Sinai, and don't make that distinction. That which was given at Sinai is also the Ruach spirit level of the worlds of Yetzirah and Bria, right? So then that would be a problem, because that means it's part of creation. What does creation mean? Creation means independence, from our perspective at least, an illusion of independence of God. That we are, and because of that illusion, we feel that we're the center of the universe. And therefore, what I, lacking, what I want, what my needs are, my desires are, I want to fulfill them, period. Why? Because I'm an independent individual. That doesn't mean there isn't a God. Doesn't mean you believe that there's a God. Hey, but I'm also something. And God, I'll take care of you after I'm taking care of myself. And, I need a few $1 billion first. I need this and that first. Then God, I'll take care of you. Right? Not denying God. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, we are in that instance. But I think you get the point of what it means, independence, right? So even if you want to call the Torah that we study, that creates a garment of ruach, the spirit of the divine, but not the neshama, which is divinity proper, as opposed to creation proper. That Torah that we're studying is still not independent of God. It's like an angel. It's like an angel. An angel is emissary of God. And sometimes angels are called in the name of God, because God dwells within them. Right? Because God dwells in them. And yet, they are creations. So much so that, that they say, Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. 3 times God is removed from them, holy from them. In other words, they're created beings. Right? So in a similar manner, that was a metaphor about the angels. The Talmud, which is the Ruach state of Bria, and the Mishnah that is the Ruach state of Yetzirah, right? Again, being created beings, that Torah is a messenger of God, meaning it's an expression of, Kabbalistically, Nukvav Malchus of Atzilus, feminine quality of the God's emanation. And since it is that, what's vested in there? Ein Sof, God himself, the essence of God. So therefore, when we're learning Torah, we are embraced by the essence of God, even in the human condition. Even if we are calling Torah, because it's a messenger that contains the messenger, the one who sends the messenger. Torah is the messenger, like the angel's the messenger, right? That vested in it is the name of God. So God himself is vested in the Torah teachings. and that we should be embraced by this divine infinite light of God that is sent in the teachings, even though there it is part of Ruach, of the real part of creation, still that embraces us and we become nullified to that light of God. And that's our entire purpose, is that we should be nullified to the light of God that is in his teachings. That's in his teachings. And this indeed was the spiritual service of the great masters like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and his contemporaries, the Tanoim, the masters of the Mishnah, and then those who were the masters and the sages of the Talmud. When they studied, they were calling forth the divine light of God to bring it into this world, the world of creation. Why? Not merely that we should be bound up with God, but we should bring a purification, a refinement to this world, because this world is made up of klipas noiga, a mixture of good and evil. And that's what exile is all about, is to purify the world from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that something we learned to great extent previously. And through our Torah study, we actually do that we can actually then ultimately have sacred man triumph evil man, that holiness should dominate over the unholy. And there should be a oneness. There should be a oneness. Now, so that Torah study, therefore, even if we are calling it the Ruach spirit part of, and therefore part of the creative, part of creation, its purpose is to affect creation, to refine creation. And that teachings is like the angel that's a messenger of God, and therefore sometimes they're called in the name of God, angels. So likewise, the Torah teachings is not a separation from God, but the messenger of God to bring a message into this world to refine the darkness of this world, the klipas noiga of this world. Now, contrast that with the spiritual service of an intellectually motivated or an inspired love and awe of God. It doesn't bring godliness into this world. Rather, it makes us go into a state of departure. If you recall, we were comparing doing physical acts of mitzvahs and the studies of those mitzvahs versus the experience that people seek, and even in a good way, seek to have a bond, a connection, a love and awe of God. Not love and awe of, whatever, of God. And yet, as we learned previously, as we just expressed, that the Torah teachings is sort of like that messenger of God that's bringing God here into this world to bring a refinement in this world. As opposed to the love and awe, it brings us to a state of departure from this world, right? And the true intention of creation is not departure from creation, but the indwelling of God in creation. Well, that's what the Torah does. Not than what love and awe does, though. In and of itself, that is. Right? Now, accordingly, now we can understand how angels are created ex nihilo from the study of our Torah when we don't have proper intent. Proper intent means to be motivated with love and awe, to be motivated to study Torah, to connect to God, not for any, not for selfish purposes, not even a selfish purpose of I want to feel good about myself, and learning Tanya makes me really feel good about myself. Well, that's selfish. Now, better still to learn that way, but that's not called with proper intent, with kavanah. Kavanah, proper intent, is in order to connect to God. And if it can be done even with love and awe, is even better. But even if it's just the mindfulness that you want to bond with God through the study of Torah, right? So that's proper intent. But even if you study Torah without proper intent, right, you create angels. In other words, when your study is only on a state of ruach, which is not neshama, in other words, you're lacking in intent, right? Your neshama mean you have the proper intent, so therefore it's divine. But you're lacking the intent. You're lacking the intent. But yet, you still create an angel. How come? How could you create an angel if you're lacking the proper intent in your Torah study? Why? Because Torah study itself is a messenger of God. It's the Ruach level without the proper intent, and therefore there's divinity. It's a connection to God and brings down godliness into this world. How in this instance, when you're learning not with the proper intent, you create angels rather than, of course, bringing divinity into this world with proper intent. So you bring divinity into this world, the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God in this world, right? But when it's with not the right intent, still the Torah study is a messenger of God. It's still bringing the light of God. It's still affecting the creative process. Absolutely. And what is it affecting? Creating angels. Just as the angels are called by the divine name, so that Torah study has got the divinity in it, even though, again, the proper intent is not there. And it creates angels. And the Alter Rebbe concludes, this will suffice for the understanding. So let's unpack this. So creating angels is not necessarily the best thing. I've had this concept before. Because angels are created beings. When we learn with the proper intent, so then we're connected to neshama. That's love and awe of God. That's because we want our Torah study that we want to have a bond with God. Now we might do that because we're fully aware, or maybe because that's just the inherent nature of our soul that desires that, and therefore that's what leads us to study. But the point being over here is that Torah study, as opposed to just feeling the presence of God, sitting and meditating, and maybe feeling God's presence, and you have this desire to bond, that's a state of departure, and that's not what we're here for. And I mentioned this before, but it's such an integral part to Hasidic teachings, to Judaism, because the human condition and human nature is that we want to kind of leave this condition. This is like what's the word I'm looking for? A messed up world. So the nature is we want to leave the messiness of this world and let's go to a higher state of being, a spiritual place. And therefore the love and awe of God, what kind of better space to be in? Well, that's a state of departure. The whole point of creation is here to bring down the divine into this world, into a world where we feel our separateness, which by the way, what comes with separateness? Feeling alone. That is the biggest plague we have in society. We've got all the gadgets today to be so connected, but people are more alone. Not lonely. Lonely, okay, you might have a lonely moment. But alone? Not alone. State of departure. Well, I don't want to be alone, so I'm leaving this world to be with God in whatever dimension, however you want to. So no, you're not alone. Bring God here and recognize how really you are not alone. You're really bound up. There's a oneness. Now just realize it. Live it here. Right? The actual mitzvah does it. The awareness and the study about the mitzvah. Right? The understanding of it as it's in Torah. What it does. And I hope this is something that's we're all that we're all capable of today, and hopefully we're doing it today. And what are we doing? Connecting to the Torah, to God, and because of that connection, we're able to bring His presence here, and therefore we're not alone. We're not alone. It's pretty powerful. Okay, let's have some discussion, some comments, some questions, whatever it might be. Let me go on Facebook and Instagram first to see if there's any questions. Question marks before you ask a question. And then please, if there's on Clubhouse, always good discussion. A reminder, please, 2 question marks. Before you ask your question. So Gail asked, do angels help us? Absolutely. But the divine helps us a lot more. Angels are part of creation, remember. But absolutely, they help us. So even if you're studying Torah now and not doing with the proper intent, creating an angel, it is So no, we only want to ask God to help us. We don't ask angels. I mean, sometimes there might be kind of an inference that way, but basically that's what we got to do. Arya, did you have a question? Because I didn't see it. Question marks before you ask your question. Lori, do you mean that the Holy Soul to triumph over the animal soul when you say the good over the evil? Yes. What are angels made of? Body and soul, just like we're made of. Different body, not a physical body. Form and matter, and not physical matter. That's what they're made of. What about the other communities that talk about how to get to the other world? So, Dave, what's the question exactly? Because again, why do other religions or faiths so focused on the other world? I mean, we believe in it, but that's not what our focus. That's not what we don't live so we can go to Gan Eden. We live so we can make now in this world divine. That's what this world was created for. This world wasn't created in order that you could leave this world, to, right? This world was created so you could engage in this world by making it divine. So when you're learning Torah, as we're doing now, you bring divinity into this world. Every time you do mitzvah, you bring divinity into this world. Ultimately, you're making actually a dwelling place for God, concept that we spoke, which is incorporated over here. Okay. Better not to ask God to send angels to help you. Ask God himself to help you. Hey, Passover Seder. What do we say? Not through an angel, not through a saraf angel, not, right, but God himself took us out of Egypt. You want an angel to take you out of your problems? You want God to take you out? I'm going for God. Go for the real stuff. Angel, remember, we created an angel with improper intent, with not having not improper, but not having proper intent, right? So why would you why would you want to have an angel to help you if you can have God help you? Do they appear to be human to us? I don't know. Probably not. You have to be really, you have to be an Abraham for that to happen. So I don't think so.
Rabbi, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So I've understood this concept of angels, that it's dualistic in nature, that there's good ones and bad ones, that people create themselves.
There's no such thing as a bad angel. It might be like in the story with Abraham, 3 angels. One of the angels went to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. It's not a bad angel. It's doing the bidding of God. So it can't be bad. It might be Gevura. You have an angel called Michael, that is chesed, kindness, and you have an angel called Gabriel, right? Which is Gvura. Destructive, can be destructive at least, right? But destructive as God wants destruction, that's not bad. It's mighty, it's awesome, it's painful, but it's not bad. So just to clarify that, does that make sense?
Yeah, just in my estimation, like, it doesn't seem wise to think about that, like to,
Meaning?
like to focus on those things, on the angelic beings.
I mean, it's, part of our teachings here, and, and I'm not certain what's not wise to understand that you create an angel through your Torah study when it's not propelled by
No, that part is
right.
beautiful. I'm just saying, like, to obsess about them.
Yeah, no obsessions allowed here. You're right. No obsessions allowed. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, 1 second, Louis, before, let me just, how many types of angels are there? Many. There's Chayas HaKadosh, holy animals, holy cow, holy animals, right? Srafim, uh, um, um, oh boy, Oifanim, coming from the word winged. So it sounds like they've got wings to them. Srafim, that they're burnt up in their love and awe of God because they have a closeness. Those are just some of them. Then you have names of angels and so on and so forth. Luz, please share with us.
Good morning, Rabbi. Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Um, I think what B meant was about people that consider angels entities and pray to them, and they think about angels all the time and the angel cards and all that stuff. So, yeah, there are some groups that do obsess about that. But no, my question is, Rabbi, what is the difference between the angels that God creates and the ones that we create?
That's a good question. I'm not certain. I don't have it. an answer? I don't know. I have to look more into that. Good question. I have a little bit of a hunch, but I don't want to go on my hunch as opposed to know more precisely. But you got a good question.
I will look into it. I mean, you know where to look. I don't even know where to start, but I want to know how long do they last? What are they made of? What are their powers? I want to know what's the difference.
Well, okay, so now you're going into what Vilma was speaking about. Don't get too enamored with them. Get enamored with the source of angels. So angels are created beings. So Vilma is very correct in that respect. Don't get caught up with them. We need to understand the reality, but you're not praying to them. You don't pray to a created being. You pray only to God, right? You can ask a holy person to pray on your behalf. You can ask actually anybody to pray on your behalf, right? Jews in particular can, because of the Jewish connection of all souls, so there's a link between all of them, so it's even more so. But we should be going to the source of life, God. Now, the reason why, again, it's the same point of why people would be obsessed with angels is because, first of all, whatever we've grown up with, Casper the Friendly Ghost, and other angel stories and whatnot that kind of intrigue us and might be part of our kind of subconscious reality, or maybe even conscious. But it's almost like personalizing something for yourself. We got to be careful with that. Just pray to God, and
Duly noted, Rabbi. No, my question in reality is, I hope that the angels that we create by mistake are not as permanent as the angels that God creates.
Right. Again, I have to look into that. It's a very good question. I'm not certain. I'll try to do some research. Okay. David is asking, what does it mean when we bring divinity in practical sense as opposed to bringing down angels? Divinity means you're bringing down the presence of God, connecting to God in this world. And another reason why angels is sort of like tantalizing is because it becomes experiential, more about experience rather than the connection. So that's another distinction. Okay. John, on Shabbos, when all the spiritual energy in the universe is elevated, does the energy remain elevated when Shabbos exits and accumulate over time, or revert back to pre-Shabbos? Doesn't revert back to pre-Shabbos, John. Good question. Because you've gone through the Shabbos, so it's taking Shabbos with it, so it's taking the energy of Shabbos, and now bringing it back, that divine light, into the post-Shabbos world of a weekday rather than a holy day of Shabbos. Very good. Laurie, how do we love and cleave to God? We should fear Him too. Yes, we have to love and cleave, but you have to have both qualities. Absolutely. We need both qualities, absolutely. Of love and awe. Okay. Your question, David, I think I answered. So if we pray to Hashem, send an angel to help me fix my flat tire, for example. No, don't do that. Ask God to help you. What's going on over here? Why are we so obsessed with angels over here? What's going on? A little confused. The obsession with angels. Be obsessed with your connection to God, and that God should bring you salvation. That's much greater, let alone, You're going to the source itself. All right, I hope that was... All right, folks. Our conversation will continue. We actually finished Mazel Tov, the fourth essay. All right, I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you, Tanya. Have a wonderful day. God bless you all.